Hi everyone, Christopher here with Adventure Van Conversions YouTube channel and the Know-How series. The series in which I explain to you as our future customers how we are building our vans and why deciding to work with us is a good decision. Today's episode is very important because it will cover the most crucial and most important part of every adventure van build, which is comfort and insulation. Two very important topics which usually in commercial van conversions, in a big production van conversions, are somewhere on the other side of the Excel and calculations, and usually they are, let's say, skipped in quality. For the last 8 years that we are building our vans, we've always took care that all of our vehicles are perfectly prepared when it comes to thermal insulation and obviously the comfort of noises and road noises and all others. So we've always took pride actually that our vans are ready for all 4 seasons. It doesn't matter if you are from California, it doesn't matter if you are from Alaska, it doesn't matter if you are even in Siberia, we always do the same standard of insulation. It doesn't matter from which part of the world you come. The reason for that is that many of you will usually use the vans in the summertime or the springtime, but there are people who are using their vans in the wintertime as well, and we want these vans to be prepared for all seasons. And obviously you can say that, oh Chris, but you know, I live in a hot area, I live in California, or I live in Spain, or I live in Africa usually, and I really don't need that much of insulation. Well, yes, that would be right, but first of all, there is a possibility that you will maybe one day change your van, you will sell it and you will build a new van with us or with someone else, and then it might happen that you will sell it to a person who loves winter camping like I do actually, because I am the big fan of winter, of snowy camps, of that below zero temperatures and extreme conditions. And the reason why we always do that is that first of all the car has to be prepared for you as the owner, but it also has to be prepared for the second owner. But maybe one day, one day you will face some extreme conditions, some extreme colds, or at least 1 week, and then you are happy person because you will have no problems and no issues with cold air coming inside of the car. So it's also important to know that the insulation works both directions. So if you are going to a country which is extremely hot and you will have a poor quality of insulation, your AC and your car will be always running very hot and probably you won't be able to cool it down properly. So how our vans usually work, a van that you see behind me, in the summertime you always run only with the original AC. You don't need an external AC unit on the roof or anywhere else unless you just want it, and because you are in, for example, California, where temperatures reach to 45 plus degrees Celsius. Sometimes I've faced that extreme heat, so there we installed pneumatics X2 air conditioner, and that air conditioner together with our blend of insulations was working perfectly. It was more efficient, it could work longer than in a car which didn't have, for example, all of that meticulously made insulation, and obviously it was keeping all of that cold air inside more properly. Another also reason that we do it in the way that we do is that all of these insulations, they also take care of the soundproofing. So it means that whenever we would skip some parts of it, you would have much less comfortable car to drive. You would hear a lot of road noises, a lot of this kind of empty noises, like, you know, just hitting a barrel with a hammer or something like that. So all of these together, they create comfort, they create good insulation, obviously, in all weather conditions. So they will keep you warm in the winter time and they will keep you cool in the summertime. So let's go to the materials review that we are using very shortly. I will show you which materials that we use and why we decided to use them, and talk about the layers and talk about the whole process. So first of all, we disassemble the whole interior, including the driver's cabin. And to save you from these road noises and to make your car more comfy, we are installing not a lot, not much of that one, but we are installing that kind of a bitumic mat which absorbs all of the vibrations from the body and from the chassis. So your whole driver's cabin is laid with that very thin but very well working sound dampening material. And also, if we work with your audio, we install that in the doors. Well, usually we install that in the doors anyways, but there's a different technique to install it for the audio, obviously. So we install that all the way in the driver's cabin. We install it back where is the differential, in the wheel arches, and in all of the flat panels of sheet metal that wobbles. And that allows it to stay firm and not wobble anymore. We don't use it in the whole car. We've seen some people who install this everywhere, from the ceiling to the bottom. Well, this is quite heavy material, so you have to work carefully with it. We don't want to add too much weight to your vehicle. This is why we put it only in the crucial places that through all of these years we've noticed that are wobbling and making some noises. It is really not necessary to fill the whole car with that material. Another plus of it is that it is not burning very well, like all of the materials that we use. I will be showing you that in a minute. So that material also is safe in terms of potential fire. It won't burn, it won't melt, it will create that kind of a layer of, let's say, orange skin that will not let the fire through. So this is number one. That is not a insulation in terms of, you know, thermal insulation, because obviously this is for the noise, and very often people think that this material is thermal insulating the vehicle. It is not. So this is only sound dampening material. So when we are with the driver's cabin and with the floors, then let's talk about the floor itself, because the first thing that we do is the driver's cabin with that material, and then we are using these sandwich panels that we create here at Adventure Van Conversions ourselves with a very exotic lightweight plywood that is called Seba. First of all, it is a 10mm layer of Seba plywood, which allows us to create that solid surface that when you walk you don't feel, you know, a floating floor. Also, it allows us to attach some lighter weight things to it, like, you know, finishing off the edges, some plastic trims, so we can actually drill in it and install them in it. And then we have 2 centimeters of polyurethane foam that is responsible for your heat insulation, for thermal insulation, which doesn't allow all of that cold from underneath of the vehicle to come inside to the van. And then we have that stretching layer of 3mm Seba, just to keep it firm and still, because if we would not do it on 2 sides, then this panel would become a little bit like a boat, like a banana after a while, because every wood is working. So it is very important that we have this in 3 layers, and also this allows us to glue it, because we are gluing it and bolting it to the chassis, to the floor, because this surface sticks the glue much better than the polyurethane foam itself. So the panel that you see here is also waterproof, water resistant actually. It is treated with anti-mold priming, so it means that whenever there is a wet floor in your van, the mold will not come on that floor. Also, a very important topic is that this Seba material is quite resistant to fire. So when you have any problem with your car. Well, with adventure van you won't face it, but for example you had a car accident while you were driving, which I don't wish you will ever have, but generally if you would have a car accident and someone would smash in your electrical box, cut the wires would start to shore and obviously burn. Before they burn completely, we took care that materials that we are using are also safe in terms of fire. Obviously, if you would burn it very long time, it would probably start to burn, but as long as you can see here, as long as I kind of try to imitate wire showering, it doesn't catch on fire. It creates that burning kind of a skin on top of it, but in the end this material is not burning. If I would keep that fire gun on it for 5 minutes, obviously that protective layer would, you know, probably be damaged and it could burn, but from the short wiring, that will not happen. So this is the floor, which is very resistant to water, mold, and obviously it's keeping your van very warm. There is also very often that we see that the floors in the vans are not insulated because people believe that when they are also in the warm hemisphere it's not necessary, or just generally it is not necessary to do that the plywood will do the job. Well, in reality that is better to have that plywood rather than nothing, but it is very often, at least in the European conditions where we have 4 seasons and usually have very strong winters and very cold winters, that the cold air is coming from beneath of the vehicle and the whole floor is feeling very, very cold. And this is what we hate. This is what I hate, that when in the morning I wake up in the winter time, I put my foot on the ground and I feel that very strong cold. With that material you won't have it. It will never be like for example super warm, like, you know, like a warmed floor, like when you would use the heating inside of the floor built in, which actually we can do, but we don't recommend that much. So it's not gonna like save you completely from that, you know, cold effect. But whenever you have your diesel heater on and, you know, you will wake up in the morning, that floor will be significantly warmer than just a piece of plywood. So then on the floor we attach usually and mostly the 2Tech2 floors that are also with that nice layer of fills in here, and these floors also have a little insulating possibilities, so they are all pressed together with a high pressure, and this is how a panel comes to the car. And another thing, obviously, 2Tech2 floors. Let's try to burn it. So usually when you have short wires, or when you would ever have any type of fire in your vehicle, it would burn the side walls and panels rather than floor, obviously. But obviously the same thing happens with the 2Tech2 flooring, that whenever by any means, by any reason, you would have a fire in your vehicle, you know, you would maybe drop a torch on the floor, it will not instantly catch on fire. It will be creating that layer that will be obviously carbonized, but it won't let the fire inside of it. We had once a situation that one of our customers, when we had a vehicle rental in the past, he left in the vehicle, he left the cooker on, the Webasto cooker. He left a plastic unit on it. It was that recovery thing for finding you when you are in the avalanche, and that thing melted down, started a fire, and that fire actually went on the floor, it went on the cabinets, and the car didn't burn because all of these materials together, they survived it. So that's very, very important. When we have the floor topic ready, when we spoke about all of these features, when we spoke about it, there is one last thing that goes on your floor, in the driver's cab, on the doors, and all of these panels and all of these construction pillars. There is this very thin insulation that we are having here in Poland and in Europe generally. It's possible to get. It's a foam that allows us to have that thermal insulation. We install 6 to 3 millimeters on the floors, depends from the vehicle that we are working on, and that is obviously just enough. Because of that reflective silver foil that we have, because of that aluminum, the whole car starts to be like a thermos, but that I will show you in a minute. So also, like in the front driver's cabin, we don't have that much space to install a thicker layer of that material. So what we do, we install the most that we can put all of the trims, the original trims, back together. It makes a big difference. So this and this makes a really big difference in terms of noise, in terms of acoustics, but also it creates a huge difference in terms of insulation. So these foams, the special foams that we are using, they do the job. And when we are with the foams and with the rest of the car, then I will introduce you the main insulation that we are using, which is the same foam, just much thicker. It also depends from the layer and from the place where we put it. So on the ceilings we put 30 millimeters of that foam, which is also resistant to water, very resistant to water. And what is very important, it is sticking perfectly on the whole surface, so that also stops cavitation and humidity buildup. It is super important. It is as the most important part is to stop the cavitation and the humidity buildup in these vents. So this is why we are using that together with something else, which I show you in a second. On the side walls, on the panels of the side walls, obviously we use thicker layers of that material, depends from the vehicle. So for example, in a Sprinter van we are using about 40 millimeter one, and that allows us really to have very well insulation. These two, well, that material would be just enough for your van, and practically, and maybe we would not have to do anything else. We could stop just here and just forget the rest, because the car would be well insulated. But we are not the guys who want it to be well insulated, we are the guys who want it to be the best insulated. But before I go to the next material, one more test. As you know, every part, every single thing that we put in these vehicles have to be tested in terms of burning. So I did the test before in the other movie. So here we have a blowtorch, here we have a foam that you would say it will burn very well. So this is a test. You see there's a lot of smoke coming actually, because it's creating, again, it's carbonizing. It is carbonizing, but again, I put the blowtorch very close, you see. So the material itself doesn't allow any smoke, doesn't allow any fire to build up on it. So again, whenever there would be showering wires, because all of the electronics, all of the wires are blended in these surfaces, obviously, if there would be any possibility that something catches on fire, this material will stop it completely. So it means that it will not burn the car down. And the last but not the least very important feature of that material is that it is very lightweight. It is a feather-light material, and it will not build up a very big amount of kilograms in your van. This is a very important part for us as well, that every material that we use must be good insulator, it must have good lambdas and everything, but also it must be very lightweight. So as the same goes for our floors. They are super lightweight. I mean, you can throw that as you want, as you wish. It will work fine, it will give you the best insulation, it will be lightweight, it will be safe, it will stop creating of the cavitation and building up the mold and humidity. This is very important. So the last material that we use, And the last layer, because we do layers in our vans to keep every of these materials cooperating with each other. So it means that that material will be just good, but we want to make it better. We incorporate this type of insulation that we created here at Adventure Van ourselves. This is our patented product. This is a multi-layer insulation that has 3M to insulate inside, 11 layers of reflective foils and so on, and every car is being finished up with that material in all of the places that we can put it inside, between the beams, between the pillars. So that material, first of all, creates that kind of a thermos-like insulation. It keeps the warmth in cold, and it keeps the cold in the summer. It doesn't allow, actually in the summer, it doesn't allow to bring up the heat from the chassis of the car. So whenever you will have in your van just the max fan on, you will always have the same temperature as you have outside, inside of your van. So you won't feel that huge difference that outside is plus 30 and inside you have plus 60 because the car is so warm. If you keep your max fan running and the little window open, this material will allow you to keep the car much cooler, and the same way it will also allow you to have perfect warm atmosphere in your vehicle in the winter time. What is also super important about that material, that is that it also takes all of the humidity out. It doesn't allow that humidity to penetrate it. So again, it stops, you know, the humidity buildup, the cavitation, and all of that bad things that we don't want to have. And again, super lightweight, super resistant to all of these things that you really don't want to have in your van. It's just perfect thing to do. This all means a lot of man work. This all means a lot of labor, a lot of hours that we have to put to implement and cover the whole vehicle with these materials, which you will see in the second. During the process of insulating of the van, and at the end of it, we always use thermal imager to show us if there are any thermal bridges. So every layer that we install, we check it, we warm up the car inside, or we cool it down the inside, depends from the time of the year, because we do this outside usually, and every time we check it with the camera to eliminate all of the thermal bridges. Obviously, Mercedes Sprinter and the van chassis general, like any type of a van, has some thermal bridges. You won't be able to stop all of them, but obviously you can eliminate as much as possible. So to keep you warm or cool, again, we also handmade here at the Adventure Vans curtains, blinds, covers for the windows, covers for the back doors, or thermo insulated, and that also keeps the van very, very warm in the winter time. As I told you, for me it is super important that we have these vans ready for winter, because I am the fan of winter camping, and I would be super angry if I would be in the ski slope for the whole day, or snowboarding, or walking around, or having fun in my Polaris, freezing the whole day, and in the end I would come to a van that would be very uncomfy. I could feel the wind that is, you know, cold air that is running around it, and the way that we eliminated it, I will show you now in the next scene. So we are inside of the driver's cabin, and you can see that we took care of all of the elements in here. We took care also of the parts that are not visible. So we removed that fuse panel, we removed all of these original insulations, which are also just the sound dampening insulations. So wherever we could reach all the way up to the dashboard, the whole car is covered with that fabric. It is possible to remove the whole dashboard, but we usually don't do that. We only do this when we are working with ladders. It is a very difficult job, and such small space with such big glass in the front will not make a huge difference. So you can see also that we have here all of these steps, all of the steps where you put your feet on the left and on the right side. All of these areas, everywhere you see, they are meticulously covered with insulation. Also here under the airbags, also here, all of these trims, the headliner, all of these areas are fully covered with that material, and that will allow us to eliminate a lot of noises first of all, but also allow us to keep that cold air in the winter time not to penetrate the car from the inside through the naked steel, which is very conductive, and that stops this conduction. The doors are already made and assembled back to the position they were in the beginning. Here we have the floor, the whole floor panel, which is that material that I shown you before. And what is very important, a lot of people leave that space open here as an extra storage. We can do this for you, obviously, but we close again all of the cold air that would come through that non-insulated plastic all the way to the inside of the car. The only place where you will see no insulation is the place where we will be installing the seats. Therefore, we are using aluminum mounting plates, homologated plates to install your seats, and then these homologated plates come with the air pockets that we fill with insulation to help again that conduction and that keeping the car warm in the winter time. So this is an ongoing process, and you can also see very important thing, that all of the joints, all of the connections, because the floor is made out of 3 such panels, are everywhere closed with the reflective foil. So that again allows us to lower down all of the thermal bridges to the possible minimum. At the very end of the process, here where you see these aluminum connections, when my guys, before they start the floor, they will fill that with this insulation as well, and that is all connected. So also when you see in the back, the body, the panel goes to the wall, there is no space left. There is also a stiff connection that, like that, goes on the wall. It is all closed with that reflective thermal bridging aluminum foil that allows again to eliminate to the minimum all of these little secret heat stealers. That van and all of our vans will have elevating roof. At the moment it is not installed. This is why here we left the bare sheet metal, because we will be cutting a hole and we will be doing all of the insulation around it just in the next step. But what is very important for you to see is also how we close perfectly all of these areas. As I told you, this is an ongoing process. You might see some places which are not filled yet, like this corner here. It's only because my guys are still working on wiring, on cables, on air inlets for the rooftop tent. So when they are fully finished, they will close all of the areas. But as you see here and everywhere, we have all of the fabrics laid. All of the thermal insulation material, all of the reflective foil material that I shown you before, that pillow material, that our patented material, and every single, as you see, every single hole, every single place where the cold air could come out or any type of air could come out, also warm, is closed. We are doing that in every single panel that you see. The only place where you have an open space is here by the seat belts, because obviously that one we can't close. Otherwise the whole vehicle is tightly closed. First of all, obviously insulation, but second of all, I also hate smell, and after a couple of years under that insulation you might have smells from the road, you might have some smells related to your journeys, or maybe you are just, you know, sleeping in a place which is quite smelly. And usually through all of these possible to insulate inside pillars, there would be coming some air with the smell or maybe something like that. So it is very important for us, first of all, to not have any air movement that will be coming inside of the van, but also very important, dust, for example in Africa, would come through every of these little holes, so they must be all perfectly tightly closed. That will allow us to have that comfort of, you know, removing all of the possible bad smells outside of the vehicle. It will also keep the vehicle cleaner in dusty areas. So for example in California, where you have a lot of deserts, a lot of desert life, Mojave Desert, you go to Ocotillo Wells, you go to Anza Borrego or any other place, you will have always the car very nicely sealed from all of the exterior elements that could normally penetrate your car from outside. So it is a very difficult, but most of all super time-consuming process to make your car so nicely and so perfectly insulated. It takes a lot of man hours, first of all because you cannot cut these pillows with CNC, it is just not possible, so every pillow has to be handmade. All of these panels, which I will show you in the another car, all of these panels, all of the materials that are behind these ones, they are meticulously inserted with hands like that, everywhere to the last millimeter that we can do with our hands. And this is what we pride ourselves here in Adventure Van Conversions, that we do all of these very difficult and time-taking jobs and we don't skip it, we don't cut corners, and this is why the car that you will receive from us will be always a superior class vehicle. Insulating is also very important because between the insulation, in between time, we also blend in all of our wirings. And this I will leave for another episode, but just I want to show you that every wire, this is a solar wire that will go on the roof, every wire is protected, everything has their protective sleeve, plastic sleeves, neoprene sleeves, all of these guys. So whenever the wire would be touching any raw bare metal, which is very nearly impossible, but whenever it would happen, it is protected from cuts and from things like that. You see in here we have one of the final panels, two of them, because here we need access for the roof, and here also. So you can see that first of all, this black foam that we use for insulating is filled everywhere. I put my hand here and there. It is soft everywhere. It is well developed, well made, in all of the areas. And also in here, if you go with your hands here behind that layer, here we have also the pillow, and also behind the pillow we have that one. So that creates that perfect blend of insulation. And as you see, just by the way, we have all of the wires nicely protected again. Every sharp edge, every sharp corner is protected with a gasket that would eliminate any possibility of cutting the wire. This is what we really pride ourselves again in AVC, that we take care of all of these very small details that are super important. We've learned that in the vehicles from other companies. Before, you knew that we were tuning some other vehicles like Heimers, like Grand Canyons and stuff like that. And we've learned by tuning them and repairing them when we were servicing it. And we've learned that they didn't do it. The big major companies usually didn't care. They just put the wires like that, you know, just throw them without any insulation underneath. And for example, after half a year or a year, some refrigerators are not working because there is a shoring wire cut here, where we install all of the gaskets, where we put all of the wires in protective sleeves that will eliminate the possibility to have any malfunction of this matter. So we are now in the back of the vehicle, and again you see that the whole last pillar is covered and insulated. The sleeping pods, the capsules are insulated. So everywhere the material is laid, everywhere it is tightly closed. And also the doors are not forgotten. So the back doors, it all depends from the setup that you have in your van. For example, here we have these pneumatic windows, but all the doors are also meticulously closed. The hands go everywhere where it is possible. Here there is no insulations because we will be installing some accessories. We will do that later on. And the most difficult part of the van as well also is the back of it, because these pillars, they are very hard to fill with any type of insulation, and also the doors, they are very hard to insulate here in these areas. So what we do our best to put that fabric inside, to put these pillows and everything to fill the doors as much as we can. But because of that I know that it is maybe not possible to do it 100% perfectly tightened, we create these panels for the back doors where you have the mosquito net for the summer, but also you have thermal insulated blinds that you can cover the whole back door, just in case if you would go to some extreme temperatures, like for example to the North Pole, to North Cap or somewhere else, you can always keep the back closed. First of all, because that will allow your car to be warmer, but also whenever you will be accessing the car, you will have to open the back doors to access your garage, to take some things out. Then you won't be wasting the nice warm air that you have inside of the car, so the cold will not penetrate it. And again, the opposite way, when you have that AC running in the super hot area, that nice cold air will not go out from the vehicle to the to the atmosphere. We could use foam, for example. We could fill the pillars and the doors with a foam, with closed cell foam, but it would be very risky in any case. First of all, the foam is burning very well, but second of all, in any case of any road accident or something like that, it would be pretty much impossible to replace the panels and repair the car, because it would be very risky to cut and weld anything that would have the foam in it. So we do the best that we can in here, in that structure, in that area, but obviously to fill it up, to have that complete setup, we install here the curtains. So we didn't forget about the shower as well. The whole floor underneath the shower is also covered with that material, and then because of that we can have that nice warm feeling on the feet. But also every of our showers is heated with Webasto, the same Webasto that heats your rooftop tent and the whole area of the vehicle. And because of that, when you are in the winter time, it just needs a couple minutes. That's aluminum, it's very well conductive, so it gets warm. So after 3 minutes you will have a feeling that you would have a heated floor. And obviously all of the wet clothes, all of the jackets, everything that was covered in rain, it's very wet, or it was, you know, snowing the whole day, you were skiing, everything is very, you know, packed and so on. You just put it inside of the shower cabin, you turn on the outlet in the shower cabin, you turn on your vent, so it is drying up all of your clothes and instantly removing all of the humidity that is being created when you dry your clothes. So every single place, every single part of the vehicle has a meaning. Every single detail was thought about in that term. We spoke about the materials, that they are resistant to fire and moisture, but it wouldn't be a complete talk if we would not do the water test. So usually in vans, in vehicles, people and builders like to introduce many different materials, and I think one of the popular ones is the Insulate 3M, which is here. We have Insulate fabric in here. House building wools, and a lot of materials that are made to resist obviously all of these conditions, but in a completely different use. So for example, a house which is insulated with a glass wool, you know, when people make their roof, it can breathe. It can breathe a lot, so the moisture is not building in the same way as it is in the metal shell. This is why a lot of people install various types of wools and insulations that are very dangerous in terms of the contact with water. The last thing you want to have in your van is to have a wet, moistury van. A lot of people also say that it is not an important part, that you can skip the insulation. I mean, I live in a very hot region like California or like Spain, where the moisture buildup will not be as much as big as it would be, for example, in Eastern Europe. In a way, that is correct, but not really, because not always you have all of these sunny days. And in the night, the temperatures go down very low, and usually people use their warmers, their diesel heaters, and the moisture from breathing in the air and from the whole day of collecting that moisture is then going up to the roof, and it starts to build on the roof and all the metal panels, which then usually would corrode. So that means, you know, some rust would appear on them. I've seen cars like that. And obviously a lot of that will never leave the car, even though Mercedes Sprinter and usually most of the vans have a very advanced airflow system. So these bodies are not like super fully sealed, you know. So whenever we do our job, we lay our insulation and close the inner layer like very carefully. The rest of the vehicle has a possibility to breathe. So if you have a very moistury van, then you will have some mold for sure. You will have very bad smells in the van as well, and this is what we don't want to have in our van. So let's see how our insulated fabrics will perform in the water test. So this is a 3M, which I said is very commonly used. People install it on naked body, just directly on the sheet metal, and obviously it will make your van warm, but as long as this fabric is not wet. The moment it gets wet, it loses all of its insulative possibilities, meaning that if you, for example, van will just not be warm at all. So let's put it in water. So let's recreate a very heavy moisture buildup. This is a very heavy test, but I want it to be that way. So you see what is happening with your wool insulated car. All types of wool, glass wool, stone wool, pet wool, all wools will perform and behave the same way. Take a look at that. So I believe that no one wants that situation to happen in his car, and that will occur especially in the winter time, when you will be heating the car inside very much and the outside will be below zero. You will have a super heavy buildup of moisture, and that wool will absorb a lot of water. First of all, it won't insulate as it should, because it will lose all of its insulative possibilities with that. Take a look how much water, how soaked it was. Second of all, it will freeze to the body of the car if it's installed directly on it. And third option, obviously you will have a mold buildup on that one. So this is something that we don't use in adventure van on direct contact with the body. We do use the Insulate 3M wool as well, but it's very different than the standard one that you can buy just in every shop, and it is closed. I will show you that in a second, because the 3M Insulate is a good insulating product, but not in a way that it is used very often in the vans. Next thing is the self-sticking closed foam cell foam that we use to insulate the car directly on the naked body. So as you know, it has that sticking place here, so it is self-adhesive, and it has closed foam cells, obviously, which will not allow the moisture to penetrate it, first of all, but second of all, build inside of it and obviously absorb. So we will do the same test here. Take a look what's happening. I will put it very, very low. And the way we do it also, we always, after cutting that material, we always cut the edges. I mean, we always close the edges, so all the open pores are not like really super open, because here in that test, you will have a very slight water coming out of it, but very slightly, just because the pores are open. So whenever we cut and the piece and connect with the other one, here we lock it. So anyways, you have just water that builds on top of it, just slightly. That's just a classic moisture, and it doesn't allow to penetrate the fabric inside. So this is what you want to achieve in your vehicle, and this is what every adventure van has. It is very important for us to have a very proper moisture barrier, because first of all, we use our vehicles in the winter time, and we don't want to have that situation like we had here, that the wool absorbs all of the water, that, you know, the wool will be frozen and it will stick frozen to the roof and then build all of the mold, all of the moisture, and cavitate your van. So this is what we don't use in the way that people use. 5 minutes later, we have the foam out of the water. Let's do it like that, and take a look close up here. There is just a little bit of moisture that is just, you know, sticking to the outer surface, but now we can do this, and mostly the moisture that was built on top of it came out of my hands, but as you will see, nearly nothing is coming from the inside. This is the material that we use, and this is the way we do it. So then we have the foil that I told you, our patented foil, and that one actually has 3M to insulate in it, but it is an industrial 3M to insulate, first of all. So it is prepared to be moisture resistant, but also what is super important is that every pillow is closed, meaning that we have a closed kind of a foam, so we have a closed, so that means that the moisture cannot penetrate that one. So let's take a look here. Again, this is not gonna let any water come in. So the water that would be normally penetrating a raw material like that will not be able to enter this one, because it's fully sealed, and what we have inside is just air. Also, it is on top of that one, so it means we have a layer like that, and all of the moisture that would come from the body, from the difference from temperatures, it's gonna not be able to penetrate it, because it will never be able to come here. So there will be no moisturizing air coming in. The last thing, I mean, this is like, you know, this is just kind of a like, how you call it? This works exactly the same way like the bags that you would use to put your telephone while you go surf or SUP. So it's fully sealed. The last thing is obviously the floor, which is an polyurethane closed foam cell, and obviously this one doesn't allow any water to be building up in the floor, meaning that whenever you have any floor on your water, I don't know, you just spilled something, or you spilled some bottle of Coke or something like that, you know, it will not penetrate it. And it's very important as well that this part does not hold any moisture. Here we have the 2-Tech2, which is obviously the vinyl, and the top layer of it also is water resistant. That is a yachting product that is used on the most expensive actually yachts, and places where you don't want that water to penetrate in your floor. Super durable, Extremely durable material, extremely durable. Although, if you seal it wrong, the water will be allowed to go on the inner layer. So on the other side, you see here we have moisture buildup. So if we don't again seal every cut, if we don't do it properly, we will obviously have that situation. So it means that the water, that layer here absorbed all of the water. But obviously the way we do it is that we want to have a solid surface on top, because the top layer is fully water resistant. It is a very simple explanation of the whole thing, of all of the materials. We could do much more extensive tests, take the heat gun, heat from that side, put it against something very warm, see like how well is it insulating, but I won't do that. The movie here is not a scientific experiment. It is for you, for the viewers, to understand our technology and understand that we've been through all of these processes for many years, 8 years to be exact, to come to the place where we've chosen materials that are really, really resistant, durable, and they guarantee the maximum of comfort. And it is very important for us, as I told you, your comfort and your warmness in the winter time, or your cool in the summertime, is very, very important for us. It is the top priority. And some people would say it is a waste of time and money and efforts to do all of these insulations like that. They can do it, I don't care. We do it this way, and we won't change it for any reason. So I hope that you enjoyed that episode. I hope that I could explain you at least more and less how we make all of these things. Obviously we could talk about the gammas and the lambdas and all of the conduction of these materials, but this is not a episode that should be a science episode. It is an episode to show, that is meant to show you how we take care of your comfort and how premium our job is, because it is very rarely that you will find a job like that in a professional van building world. And this is again what I said, we are priding ourselves for that, and I hope that you now also will understand from where comes the price of our vehicles, you know, because this is nothing like any mass production vehicle. This is a premium job where a lot of people take care of your vehicle, that you have a safe vehicle, that your vehicle will last for years, and you will have a lot of comfort in it, and you will just love it. And that is the most important thing in adventure van conversions, that we want to deliver vehicles that people will love, and they will not like to change them for anything else on the market. I hope that you enjoyed it, and see you in the next episode. Christopher Adventure Van, goodbye, see you next time.